Welcome to the Start Something Show. Join world-renowned experts, change agents, and everyday folks who have done the amazing. All here to help you start something incredible. Now it's time to step out, live your perfect day, and create a legacy with your host, Tina Dietz.
That's right. It's another episode of the Start Something Show, and here I am, Tina Dietz, here to guide you on a journey of wonder and adventure. Or yeah, pretty much, actually. If I had, I wish I had one of those big movie trailer voices so I really could have done that justice, right? I should get one of my voice actor buddies to do that for me. What do you think? Huh? Hashtag movie trailer voice. That'd be perfect. Today on the show, Catherine Saykaly-Stevens. Saykaly-Stevens. Catherine is an author and entrepreneur who works specifically with writers and authors to teach them how to use social media so that they can grow their followings, have more people read their books, and become more successful. Catherine's really fun to talk with, and she also used to own a speed dating franchise. Check that out. So can you imagine the stories she's got from that little piece of business? She still does speed dating at a very unusual location. She runs events, and you'll have to listen to the interview to find out what I'm talking about there. It's very cool. Well, before we get to talking with Catherine, I mentioned last week that I had been getting lots and lots of questions about this whole concept of the business oasis. And the business oasis being when your business serves your lifestyle, not the other way around. Because let's face it, as much as we love what we do, none of us wants to work 80 hours a week forever. It's just not sustainable. And people ask me all the time, how did you create time and money freedom for your family? How did you free yourself up so that you're location independent? How did you create a following? So I distilled everything down, and I'm having a webinar called Create Your Business Oasis. And it is exactly what I do. It's exactly what I have done with my clients to help people create time and money freedom in their business, whether or not you want to be location independent or not. And we're going to be going through 5 keys, some pillars of the conversation here that are fundamental for you to move forward and having a business that's really sustainable, that feeds your soul, that feeds your well-being, as well as provides you the prosperity that you want for yourself, your family, your community, and all those things that you want to serve. And of course, all of this is without being salesy, smarmy, or otherwise icky. Icky is a business term. So check that out at yourbusinessoasis.com. The webinar's coming up on the 17th. Don't miss it. You're going to want to bring notes, take lots of notes. And the replay is available as well. yourbusinessoasis.com. And we're going to be really digging into those 5 keys to build your business oasis, regardless of your industry, regardless of your current circumstances, and regardless of what you think might be possible. This is business on your terms. I've worked with businesses in more than 20 different industries around the world. This works. It's repeatable. It's fundamental. I'm now talking too much about it, so I'm going to shut up. But it's yourbusinessoasis.com. Go check it out. Okay, check it out, Superstarters. Today on the show, we have Catherine Saykaly-Stevens. She's an author and entrepreneur who teaches writers and authors how to use social media to build their communities of readers and fans. She developed the Writers Social Media Mastery Program, and she's an active leader for the Calgary Social Media Breakfast Group and the Calgary Writers Festival, as well as a member of the Evolutionary Business Council. You can find out more about Catherine at thenetworkingweb.com. Catherine, thanks for starting something with me today.
Hello, Tina. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
You are most welcome. You and I were talking a little bit before the show, and we have found that we have a very similar sense of humor. Yes. And we also have this habit of being all kinds of goofy, kind of naturally, and then we get into business situations and become very businesslike.
Yes.
So we'll see if anybody notices kind of our dual personalities today on the show, shall we?
It'll be a test at the end.
Will the real Catherine and Tina please stand up? Exactly. Well, let's jump right into your story, because you've done some pretty cool stuff in your time, and I kind of want to go hang out with you now after finding out some more about you. This is pretty awesome. But let's take it back to the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey. And this business is not your first. So what made you initially want to change your life and start something?
I think, like so many other people, I like to reinvent myself every couple of years. And unfortunately, changing jobs and moving across countries brought me to my city of Calgary. And I didn't want to just do the 9-to-5 grind. I needed something a little bit more. So I started looking for what it was I could do. And then it became the question of, what is it I'm good at? And that could be really difficult when you're not looking to get a job, but trying to create a career. You have to sit down and you really have to think about, what am I good at? What can I do that other people would like to know or like to have or like to train in? So I've been in IT for so many years. I just kind of naturally fell into websites. At the time, we're looking at the year 2005. So it's websites, which turned into marketing of those websites, and then online marketing, and then into social media. But along the way, because it's my personality, there were shiny baubles that pulled me one direction and another. And I had done professional dancing for a little while, and I fell into Calgary speed dating and run some speed networking networks along the way. So speed dating was probably the most fun you can have at events, because everything's crazy. Everybody's energy is so high. And it started to occur to me that you could take all the different things that I've done and pull out the best qualities of each and pass that on to the next thing that you're going to do. So when I sold the speed dating business, I had to write a book about it. And that opened it up to all these authors. And because I was already online and working with social media for years, discovered that these authors didn't know a lot about social media, and I could take the enthusiasm from one job and the technical information from another and teach the subject matter to authors.
Wow. I'm going to back you up a couple of points, because, I kind of could almost be in our listener's shoes here going, oh, wait. Did she just say speed dating?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So you started out your career on the job side of things, working in IT, training people in programming, and really the very heavy technical side of things. And not for nothing, during a time when there were very, very few women in the field. Isn't that right?
That's right. The first class that I took, I believe we were 103 entering the program, of which there were only 2 women who started on that day. And others came and left the program over those couple of years. But when we graduated, there were still 2 women graduating and a much smaller number of graduates. I think it was somewhere in the 20s. But yeah, it was a different time. And I really have a great deal of respect for the women who came before us. There were so many more walls that they had to break through than I did. And I got the tail end of it. It's so great to see so many women in engineering and in computer sciences and really excelling. And there were certainly those women there during my early days, but there was still some resistance.
Yeah,
now
imagine.
it's much, much better. And, I didn't have any of the resistance that the women before me had to deal with. So great respect for them who came up before. They
That's
led the
awesome.
path for the rest of us.
Yeah. And so then we could probably do an entire show just on that topic right there, on the progress that's been made in terms of the gender equality in the technical fields. Mm-hmm. However, we're going to move on a little bit more to this journey. How did you end up falling into speed dating, of all things, and then owning a speed dating company?
I was in Los Angeles and suddenly single, and there's so much to do in Los Angeles, and I ended up speed dating, but decided it's time to leave, came to Calgary, didn't know anybody. So I did every networking event and speed dating just to meet people in town. So within 2 weeks, I had hundreds of friends.
That's pretty cool.
And I happened to meet my husband at a speed dating event. Now, flash forward a year, I felt guilty that I never told the owner of the company that, we're still together after all this time. So when I reached out to her, she was looking for someone to sell the company to because she needed to leave to a different province. And I ended up buying the company from her because I'm crazy. I thought it would be fun. And what's not fun about running an event where everybody is just so energetic and there's so much energy and you get to be in the middle of all of that. So that's what I did for the next 5 years.
That's pretty exciting. I gotta wonder, what's your take on the parallels between something like speed dating and something like social media? Because it seems to me that you could really pull some interesting analogies out of there.
Absolutely. And you know what? There's a couple of them, but energy and attitude has everything to do with it. If you show up at an event, whether it's speed networking, speed dating, anything face to face, and your energy is down, you're less attractive to people. It doesn't matter what you look like, your energy is down, you're not as attractive to the person sitting across from you. Well, the same energy can be found in networking. If all you're doing is just posting with no energy behind it, I think people can really feel that on the other side. It might be text, but there is something, when you look at the whole account, between the people who are posting with energy and posting enthusiastically and, put some effort behind what it is they're posting versus individuals that are just posting, buy my book, 99 cents today.
Yeah, that's not terribly interesting, is it? Yeah, for sure. Now, are you still involved with speed dating at all?
No, it's funny. The same woman came back to town 5 years later, and I ended up selling it right back to her. So it's like I held it for her while she was gone. It was funny how that turned out. But the Calgary Expo, which is like our version of Comic-Con, about 5 years ago now, came to me and asked me if I'd be interested in doing a geek speed dating event. And oh my gosh, even more fun, 200 and some kids dressed up in costumes, trying to find the Princess Leias and the Stormtroopers and across a room. It's just a blast.
Please tell me you're going to write a book about that someday.
Someday I probably will.
I think I need to do like a special edition of the Start Something show and come out to that con and interview people who are doing this, because that just seems like...
You. Come on out. It'll be so much fun.
That would be such a blast. Oh my goodness, what a riot. So now in this space, now you're a writer and author yourself. What are you finding now specifically to social media that you're seeing that authors and writers, playwrights, people fall into this using the written word as their voice to the world category? What do they struggle with in social media the most?
Probably to get their information either to go viral or spreadable and just get more attention online. And if I could back up just a second, social media is for everybody. And, it really doesn't matter what course you take. There's probably an 80-20% rule there as well. Everybody can take social media, but at some point you need to specialize into your field. So if I like to use the analogy, if you're a dentist and you need people to walk off the street, come in, they have a toothache, you want to retain that person at your brick and mortar company, and you want them to come in every 6 months, that's going to be very different than somebody selling a book to go with their business online that anybody could purchase. And maybe you won't have another book out for a little while, but you want them to join up on a newsletter. Very different end results in each. So 80% of the same social media, but 20% incredibly different between the two types.
Okay. Well, then let's talk about that 20%. And are there kind of common mistakes or missteps that you see writers and authors making?
You know what, specifically to authors, and it's not that other people aren't making it, but I think because there are so many authors on Twitter and they all see what each other is doing, that it's like the bad driver teaching another young driver how to drive. They're making that same mistake over and over again with the left-hand turn. Something is so simple as you want to praise somebody on Twitter and you start the tweet with their handle. And that's a good way of having nobody see that tweet. When you're really trying to praise that person, you need to start with something else. And it's just one tiny tip, and just knowing that one thing will change the amount of people that see what you've posted in praise of someone else.
Well, let's stack up and have you explain that, because there's a whole bunch of people that just went, what?
Huh?
Yeah. And this is a really important technical tip that even I myself didn't really know until maybe 6 months ago about Twitter, until more recently. So yeah, go ahead, explain starting the post with a handle, or starting a tweet with a handle error.
Sure. Well, let's say I want to say, hey, Tina, thank you so much for having me on your show. And I use Tina's handle. And then say, you guys, you need to come out and check her show. She's fantastic. And the only people who are going to see it is you and me, and maybe the person who happens to be on your account and my account at the time that I've posted that tweet. And the reason is, when you start that very first character with that handle,
the @ symbol,
then that's the only person who's going to get it. It's not private per se, but it is a semi-private post. So the only people who will see it are people who follow us both at the time that we put it out, people who happen to be in your account or happen to be in my account, and you and me. And that's it. And no one else is going to see it. So you need to have any single character in front of that Twitter handle, even a comma will fix that problem. Then it goes out to the world, and then other people can see it as well if they happen to be on at the same time.
Super simple. Super simple. Yeah, and that's a really phenomenal tip to have, because who would think, because when you usually start a tweet to somebody, the first thing that pops up is @ and their handle name.
Exactly.
So, knowing that you have to put something in front of that, either a period or a comma, like you said, or you have to start the post in another way, then everything is fine.
But it's perfect if you want to do a semi-private message. Hey, Tina, thanks for being on the show. Talk to you next week.
Exactly.
That's perfect.
Exactly. And that's perfect. Well, let's talk a little bit more about different platforms then for authors and writers. Now, is there like a best platform for authors and writers?
There are the top 3 that all authors should consider, but there isn't one that's absolutely perfect, because even writers can be split out into different categories. So if you are an author with a business, you most definitely want to be on LinkedIn first, because everyone should be on LinkedIn. That's your professional social media platform. That's where you have all your content. It's not where you're having fun conversations, like where you and I get very serious. You read, you read LinkedIn. There's nothing funny there, unless, of course, you're a comic and you're proving how funny you are. So that's the one that you definitely want to have up. And it's great because you could go into LinkedIn and just do it once, do it well, and don't have to go back. But there are other things you can do on LinkedIn a couple times a week. So you have the option of keeping working on it, or you have the option of just doing it once and letting it sit there and let people know that you exist and you are who you say you are. Now, everyone is on Facebook. And as much as people love to say Facebook's on the way down, it's not going anywhere.
This is very true.
It's not going anywhere. They keep bringing people back. And you know what? Honestly, the people who buy books are the people who are in Facebook, whether it's for business, it's for personal, it's mommy bloggers, it doesn't matter. They're on Facebook. If you're writing for YA, that's going to be a little bit different, but I'll get back to that in a second.
Young adult.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, young adult. Now, Twitter, you know what? There's a lot of authors on Twitter. And there's a lot of authors not using Twitter to the best of their abilities. But maybe in Calgary, when we talk to people, we contact each other through Twitter direct messages. That's the Twitter DM. So that's the absolute private part of Twitter. And we don't text, we don't email, we just use Twitter DM. And I think that's because we're all on Twitter. We're using it so much. And Calgary is very much a social media town. But because you have so many authors on Twitter, it's really good idea to get off of email for just simple one message items and just get used to using Twitter as your instant tool, your instant message tool. And Twitter can be fantastic because it's your information that's absolutely up to date. It can be a fantastic search tool. And because of hashtag use, it's one of the easiest places of getting information through hashtags.
Well, say some more about that. That's really interesting to me. How would you use, and how and why would you use Twitter as a search tool?
All right. You can actually go into Twitter and say, find me this. Or you can say, hashtag, find me everything that's using hashtags. Now, Twitter is just, think of it as one stream. So I like to think of social media as channels. And you got the enchilada of channels. You've got hundreds of channels. But every channel has hundreds of shows that they'll play within the year. So you need to go in and find a show, and maybe you're only looking for an actor in a show, in a channel, in your hundreds of channels. So you have a great deal of content that you need to weed through to get what you want. Now, to use it properly, you actually want to use a different tool. You could use TweetDeck. You can use Hootsuite. Hootsuite, I live on it every single day. And you can set up hundreds of searches instead of just going one at a time.
So that would be for something that you follow regularly.
Someone you follow
or something. Some topic.
You follow regularly, or something so you can have 4 or 5 terms, and when all those terms get used together, you want to see who else is talking about it. So that is also a really good way of finding out who else is talking about what you're interested in. Otherwise, how are you going to know this person who lives in Brazil, who does exactly what you do and you should collaborate with?
That's a really good point. Well, let's do kind of a live example then. Let's imagine that you are a well-established author with a fairly large readership or following.
That's awesome. Thank you, Tina.
You like that? Okay, good.
Yeah.
And let's say that I am a newly minted, fresh off the bus, rosy-cheeked, newly minted best-selling Kindle author. And, people are liking what, I'm doing. I got a Amazon bestseller in my belt, and I'm looking to,
Nice.
build my community.
Yes.
How might each of these people either, one, interact, or two, utilize, like, a tip for utilizing social media best, or at least not screwing it up?
Okay. The great news is, as long as you're not posting negative content, you're not going to screw it up. You may not get an audience as fast, but you won't screw it up. And that's the first thing. People don't need to worry when it comes to social media. So there's two ways that you can look at that. You have a following already. You have your Kindle following, all those that bought your book. In your book, you should have all your social media that you're currently using so that people can already connect with you.
Ooh,
and
good
then you
idea.
want to post regularly so that people will see regular content and come back. And then you've got this great archive of content for those people that come back and they say, oops, they missed something and they want to go and read that. So that's what you do for the people that already know you and who you are. But now there's a whole audience out there that has no idea who you are and how to find you. So you've got to reach them. And that's where your hashtags come in. There is always somebody looking for material that you're doing. It's just a matter of leaving them little breadcrumbs along the way so that they can come and find you. So if you are sending out tweets, the people who are following you are automatically getting them, but your hashtags are like little fishing lines that you're setting out if you're interested in this topic. So if I'm talking about influence, I'm going to hashtag the word influence, and people who are looking for influence will find that hashtag and then come back and see your tweet, at which point they can get introduced to you. Now, this is where your archive is especially important again. When they see what you've done, they can decide whether or not they want to follow you or find out more about you or find out about your book. If you leave a hashtag for social media, that's kind of big and bland and not so interesting. But what about content management? Okay, that's more focused. Maybe they'll come in and they're going to see, okay, there's that tweet. Now, what about the last 30 tweets? And they can take a look at your archive and see, have you posted regularly? Are you posting a lot of Me Too statements, or are you posting content that they could follow and learn something from? Or maybe it's a lot of fun and they can interact with you. And they're going to get a really good sense of who you are. So those hashtags, those little breadcrumbs, bring people to you, and then they can find out about you, perhaps buy your book, and interact with your existing community.
Very nice. Yeah, I like that a lot. So that sounds like a good advice, certainly for anyone who is an author, a playwright, an artist, or really anyone who's a content creator could feasibly use that same strategy. Yes?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really good. Great advice. And you're very active on Twitter, and you're also, I've noticed, very generous with your retweets on the people that you follow. You pay attention to people.
Absolutely.
And then help people actually connect the dots with, your audience with other people that they might be interested in, which kind of goes back to the whole name of your business, the networking web.
Yes.
Just to kind of bring that all full circle there. So
you can't have social media without community, and community means giving back. In my opinion, you shouldn't sell yourself. And if you want to announce that something fabulous is happening and your book is out, that's great. But don't sell you, but promote other people. There is no end to the number of times you can promote other people. And people really appreciate it when you're talking about them. I know I appreciate it when people talk about me. So that really endears people to you and you to them, and your community grows.
exactly. Isn't it funny how we went from years ago being worried that people were talking about us, and now we're worried about people not talking about us?
20 minutes of fame have become 20 years. It's kind of funny.
Man, it's like the lunch table, and we were all like worried about what people were saying behind our backs, and now we're like checking and make sure they're saying stuff all the time. Please let them be talking about me. Oh, that's hysterical. That's really fun. So what do you have coming up next for your growing community of authors and writers and content creators that you're supporting in learning how to use social media?
Yes, I do. I have a couple of free teleseminars that people can join in, and some of it is education. And there are also a program that I've put together, and took me forever to get this title, but the Writer's Social Media Mastery Program and Community, because there is no social media without community. And that's a 12-week program that I've put together for authors to, and these are mostly for the beginner to intermediates, to really understand the basics, because you can't just build a cherry pie just throwing the pie filling on the bottom, baking it and expecting to put the crust around it. It has to be in order. They have to understand the fundamentals in order to move forward. And it just takes them through the whole system.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And when you say beginner, because I've seen some of, your work and your tips and everything, this is really about building a strong foundation, even if you already have a presence. So I would even say that if you think you're doing it right, you should probably go over and join in on some of your teleseminars and make sure you're doing it right. Because it is an ever-changing world, and what was working, even 2 or 3 years ago has changed now to today, especially with all the proliferation of so many different platforms that are going on. And it's a very, very changed world. What was working to share with people even a year and a half ago, is not necessarily going to work today. Even though humans fundamentally don't change, our receptiveness to certain messages does seem to change faster and faster these days. So, Catherine, I have just really enjoyed our conversation today, and we're going to make sure that all of your information, the links to your teleseminars, links back to your website, everything is in our show notes today. So remember, folks, you can go to thestartsomethingshow.com, grab all of the links, and you can get to that right from the links in the show notes, whether you're listening from the website, from iTunes, from TuneIn, from all the other platforms that we're on, from Stitcher. Just click on it, or just go to thestartsomethingshow.com. Easy peasy. You don't have to take a single note. And of course, I want you to go and check out Catherine and her work and her community at thenetworkingweb.com. And we've got all Catherine's social media links on the website as well. So that'll be really, really cool. And Catherine, you're going to join us for some more social media education tips and strategies on the Backstage Pass, right?
Love to.
Perfect. So you want to join us back there, Superstarters, for that conversation and some more strategies if you are a member at thestartsomethingshow.com. So in closing, my dear, I would just like to ask you if you wanted listeners today to take one step forward in their social media for this coming week, what would be your tip of advice?
I know a lot of people are stressed out with their social media, and that's why so many of them have walked away from past accounts. So don't stress out. You are exactly where you need to be right now. And absolutely everybody started out with 0 followers, 0 friends, and 0 connections online. So everybody started there, and it's just the way that they have gotten to where they are, and you're just fine. It's better to have 100 enthusiastic followers than 10,000 apathetic accounts that follow you because you follow them and then ignore you, or they're even worse, they're even bots. So you're doing fine. Don't worry about the numbers. Just keep communicating with people, and those engaged people will follow you back and communicate with you and friend you.
Exactly. We want people who are real people having real conversations and real interactions. That's where the real juice is. So thanks again, Catherine, for joining me.
Thank you, Tina.
It's always a great time talking with you. And thank you, Superstarters, for joining us here on the Start Something Show. Join us on the Backstage Pass at thestartsomethingshow.com. And remember, you can always be a member. Bye-bye.
Start something with purpose. Start something with freedom. Start something now. Go to thestartsomethingshow.com, join our community of Superstarters, and get your perfect day planner pack, a free resource to help you create the life you've dreamed of living. Take action now, and we'll see you for our next exciting episode.